Hello, church. I'm thrilled to spend a moment talking to you about an update from our Reuter pipe organ here at First Baptist Roswell. I spoke to church in conference last time in April, giving an update and a couple updates of various groups throughout our church since then. But as the Music and Worship Committee felt, we wanted to bring forth our recommendation and the process that the organ has been going through over the last 9 months now, as we've considered how to care for it and to repair it and to move forward with this, and wanted to just provide the church with an update for information on what has been done so far and what is currently being done, and what our goal and hope and what is being considered right now moving forward. There is no actionable item this for the project at the current moment for this church conference on November the 10th. This is purely just for information and to let the congregation know a brief update and an overview of what is going on with the organ. Just to give you all some brief history about the instrument and to talk more about our Reuter pipe organ, I wanted to look back in time. Many of you probably remember that in 2021, our pipe organ celebrated its 50th anniversary of service to our church's music and worship expressions. Um, in that time, it's faithfully served its purpose and design throughout the years. And as is our tradition and current practice, it is our chief and primary worship leader in our worship services, our weddings and funerals, and other musical events at our church. However, like any instrument, though, with extensive use over time comes expected aging and normal wear and tear on its parts and on its design. Our instrument here was installed in 1971, if you can remember back and think back that far. In 69, our church signed into an agreement for the purchase of our Reuter pipe organ to be completed for use in 18 months from signing for the low cost in 1971 of approximately $125,000, which, using the CPI data provided by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, in today's money, in 2024, $125,000 in 1971 equals to just shy of $1 million at $963,398.24 in today's money. Which you think, what a tremendous gift to our church and a tremendous investment in our church's music and worship ministry all the way back in 1971 for future use that's now gone on for over 50 years. The life of an organ kind of is one of its own. Our pipe organ was completed in 71 by Reuter Organ Company based out of Lawrence, Kansas. And in total, it has around 2,379 pipes in the total organ. If you think about it, right above the piano and above the organ console in our sanctuary, where our TV screens that help guide us and serve as a resource in worship each week, behind those gray screens up against the wall are the two chambers for the pipe organ. The organ is not just the organ pipes you see exposed in the choir loft, but it's also a very tight and very small chamber of rooms, one on each side, hidden behind those TV screens, where almost the majority of those 2,000 and some odd pipes are for the organ. And friends, it is tight in there. I'll show you later on a brief tour of the chambers, but think of this massive, great pipe organ and the massive, great sound that we have, all coming from that tiny, confined space. The average lifespan of the organ is 25 years before an anticipated restoration or before it needs to be taken apart and cleaned and thoroughly maintained, and the leather itself before it needs to be completely re-leathered. All throughout the instrument, there are all sorts of leather flaps and leather pouches built into the instrument, almost like an accordion. As you think, as it expands and contracts over time, that leather tends to wear out and to give way. And so, over 25 years of doing that, it's time for a new one. Well, remember, we're going on now 50 plus years. So we're on its third lifespan of service on the original leather that was installed in 1971. Lucky for us, and kudos to us, we've well maintained and fixed and patched. We've put small band-aids and repairs over the organ as the need has arisen over time. And that's in large part thanks to the continuity of care, all provided by J. Mitchell and Associates, our organ curators who have been caring for the organ since the 1980s. That is now over 40 years of care that the instrument has had under one company and one team and crew of people, all headed by J. Mitchell, who still to this day faithfully cares for our instrument, which, what a great blessing, and again, a great knock of continuation and continued care from a single longevitied organization. A memo that came to us from Jay in 2018, prior to my tenure here, all of the chest work and bellows in the swell division were re-leathered a few years ago as a result of a water leak, which happened sometime in the early 2010s, if you'll remember your history. However, the positive chest, the great chest, and all of the pedal division, that's the division of pipes hidden behind the screens on the organ side, as where the console sits, as well as the two exposed chambers out in the choir loft, have not been re-leathered since their original creation. Also, the blower bellows, which is hidden behind the sanctuary on the back side of the baptistry, has not been re-leathered. All of the note actions and all of the bellows in these divisions are coming up on 50 years old and will need to be re-leathered within a few more years. Remember, this was 2018. At this time, this is not an emergency situation. It's recommended that a capital funding campaign be initiated to cover the costs of re-leathering the organ at some time within the next 5 to 10 years. Well, friends, we are at 6 years in 2024 from 2018 since this notice was given to us, and since we've really had to start considering this. And at the present, we have not undergone a capital campaign to work on the organ. We've patched it up, we've continued to fix and to care for the organ in little ways and as needed, but we're at a point and at a crossroads in the organ that it needs to be fixed and worked on. It's starting to show overwhelming more beyond the normal wear and tear of the instrument, but ways that it is really in need of repair. The issue at present is, in the picture you see on the screen, is the leather bellows, one of the chambers underneath the pipes, hidden up in the chambers up above us in the sanctuary. The leather is starting to deteriorate. Just this past year, in 2023, Jay Mitchell took myself and Logan Carpenter up into the organ chambers as he was working to patch up a small hole, and showed us that the leather is really becoming brittle and starting to tear easily. It's not holding up like it once did in 1971. And considering today we're on its third life cycle, all of the leather, most of the leather, except for the part that has been patched or the part that was fixed in early 2010, is on its third life cycle, which represents over 75% of the organ's playing and air pressure capabilities. The issue at the moment is the decreased air pressure and leaks. It's got leaks and holes all in the leather that are starting to decrease the air pressure, which only doesn't keep the organ up at its correct tuning, but it also doesn't help the organ play at the same power that it needs to. If you think of a car analogy, the horsepower of a car is decreased when not all the cylinders are running on the same timing chain, or when they're not running all together. Well, our organ has lost some horsepower and it's actually not functioning all as it needs to. There are notes that do not speak, and there are places that, because of how the instrument was built, that we're not able to fix and repair with the current services of Jay Mitchell. The organ is fitted so supremely tight in those organ chambers. The ability to repair it and service the instrument is so delicate and requires great nuance and skill to be able to get the required team and to get the folks that need to get in there with the tools and to get to the areas that they need to fix, without a consideration of how to think about that in the long term and how to fix that. We're going to again be in a place time and time again where we're not able to fix and service all the parts of the instrument without completely removing it and taking it apart. So all of these issues combining have been building up for some time, and now we're at a place to where we go, well, how do we care for the instrument? How do we fix this issue and this major challenge for us at this time? Well, the solution to the issue is to re-leather the instrument for the first time in its entirety in over 50 years. All throughout the organ, there is leather. There's leather in the bellows, which are these accordion-like fixtures that help the organ breathe and expand and contract to help build air pressure. That way the pipes can sound. There are leather sleeves and pouches at the footing of each individual pipe. So you remember there's 2,300 and some odd pipes. Well, there are that many pouches below each pipe that help those pipes sound and breathe. There is leather in the wind chests and other joints and combination actions where the leather exists that all has to be replaced at this time. Furthermore, some considerations for us to think about at this time when re-leathering. It's not just as easy as a simple fix to say, well, let's take the chambers out and let's take all the leather out and let's send it off to a saddle shop and fix it. It's not as easy as it sounds here. There are some major considerations to think about. When repairing the leather, the entire organ must be removed from the chambers in order to access the bellows and the wind chests. In just a moment, I'm going to take you on a tour of the organ to show you how it all looks, and for us to be able to get to the places that need to be fixed and to be able to install the leather as it needs to be in these various components and equipment within the organ, the entire instrument has to be taken out and removed from our building and from the organ installation where it currently is. Our organ technician, tuner, and curator, Jay Mitchell, who I have told you about, has cared for our instrument for now 40 years, has had a long-standing career in care for our instrument. However, when the day arrives for Jay to retire and to step down from his job as our organ tuner, which is coming more quickly than we can think about, we're asked and faced with the question, who's going to pick up where he leaves off? Who is going to take the institutional knowledge that he has and all of his years of training and expertise and all of the particulars and the specific details about our instrument, not just organs in general, but our own instrument here at First Baptist Roswell? Who's going to know that information? Who's going to be able to have that information and to pick up where Jay leaves off when we have to hire in a new organ company to come repair and service and tune and take care of our instrument in the years and decades to come? Lastly, if we're to remove the entire instrument to repair it, if everything has to come out in order for us to fix it and work on it in the first place, to fix the immediate and the urgent need, should we not take a moment to consider how we can strategically prepare for the future and maybe consider a partner and a company who could help us think forward about not just what we need now, but what we could have in the instrument in the next 40 years, just like Jay has cared for us in the past 40 years. For us to be able to think about not just what do we need in the immediate, but what are ways that the organ could be enhanced and built upon and expanded and grown in ways that we can't even fathom, in ways and sounds and textures that help us worship more faithfully to God and help us expand upon the capabilities of it, not just in leading the hymns on Sunday, but to serve as a solo instrument and to serve as an instrument that can better accompany the choir and an instrument that can accompany solo voices, an instrument that can stand alone and be a recital instrument, but that can also play alongside our now 40-person orchestra. What are things that we can think about at this critical juncture for what we could do with this grand instrument that we have been entrusted with for now over 50 years? How do we think forward and not just think about the urgent immediate? Well, all of that to say, let me show you some of the root of the problem here for the organ. Let me show you the organ itself. This is the two organ chamber entrance points on either side of the organ up in the second story of our sanctuary, right next to the baptistry. There are two access door points in the baptistry, changing the robing rooms up in the baptistry, and this is what you look at when you open up the door. On the left-hand side of your screen, you see the chamber above the piano side in our sanctuary, and on the right-hand side of your screen, you see the chamber that is above the organ console, or the organ side in our sanctuary. As you can see, there is not much room to get in there. It is so tight. You can see the ladder on the left-hand side that you have to climb up to get on top of a platform to be able to look at the pipes. On the right-hand side, you have to see a small access bridge there that you have to literally lay on your back to be able to crawl through to get up into that chamber to see the pipes. In both cases, you see where there is the ladder on the left-hand side and the walking plank on the right-hand side. Underneath those, where you see the pipe, this large gray pipe going all the way down towards the floor, just above the green floor, that is where the majority of the bellows and the wind chest, where the leather has to be replaced, resides. That's where it is. So to be able to get to those big, large chests to repair them, all of that stuff on top of it has to come out for us to be able to remove it from that narrow space in that very small, delicate, tender way. Well, let me show you a video here. This is over on the organ side. On the organ side of our sanctuary, you can tell and you can see that inside this chamber it is very tight. I'll play it once again for you. When Reuter Pipe Organ installed this, we were given the title of one of the most mitered pipes and pipe organs that Reuter has ever undone. All of the miters, is what I mean, is all of the way that those pipes, because of how tall they are, have to be turned over and bent over and reconfigured. That way they could fit in such a small space. Well, we still to this day have the record for the most awkward space and the smallest space to fit a pipe organ into that Reuter ever built. Here is the chamber over on the piano side, up above your head, where Suzanne plays. You can see all of our pipes in there. You can then see some of the pipes are sideways attached to the ceiling because of how they have to rest, because of how tall they are, and because of the lack of space that we have. In order to get to all these pipes, you have to crawl up on a ladder to get up onto the platform that I'm standing on to shoot this video, and then crawl up another ladder to get onto the platform you see in the top right-hand corner of your screen, and then crawl down another ladder to get down on the other side of all of these pipes you're currently looking at, to be able to tune them and to maintain them, to remove them as needed, and to do any maintenance for any of these divisions. And that's just to get to the pipe work. To get underneath all that, you've got to lie on your back and crawl underneath all of these pipes into an area that you cannot see, that I don't have a video footage for you to be able to look at. As you can tell, it is a tight space for us to be able to look at and see and to get through. You can see looking through the screen out into the choir loft here. Just some more pictures to illustrate the point here. You can see that on one of the walkways, that is the size of my shoe. It is that wide. It is the width of my shoe, and I myself, as a person, am wider than my shoe. So I'm not even able to, without great care and great concern to not hit any of the pipes. We really have a hard time of fitting human bodies in this space to care for our instrument. You see over on the right-hand side of the screen are pipes, and you can see how they are mitered, how they are shaped and reconfigured. That way the pipes can have the full length that they need to get the pitches and the sounds that they have, but are twisted and turned upside down that the way they can fit in such the tight space that it is in our chambers. This picture I'm showing you is where the wind chests are below the piano side of the pipe organ. It's all at the bottom of all those pipes that you all just saw. That's hidden away on the floor of the chamber. And to be able to pull those out, which is where all the leather is, and that black leather and black cloth that you see is what we're needing to replace. All that has to be able to come out. So to get those boxes out, all of the pipe work on top of it has to be taken out first. This is the same chamber work and same bellows and wind chests over on the organ side of the sanctuary. Again, all of that leather that has to be fixed on those wind chests has to come out, but in order to pull those out, we have to pull all of the organ on top of it, all of the pipe work out first. Once again, one more thing just to show you, this is the blower and the blower leather on the first floor of the sanctuary building just behind the baptistry. You can see our blower, which is in good shape and it's still working well. However, the leather over on the left-hand side, it's starting to deteriorate and it's starting to have some pinhole tears, and it's very, very brittle, and ultimately what would be a significant blow, no pun intended, to our organ is if that action were to work too hard, and because the leather is in such deteriorating ability, if it were to tear and blow out, then the organ would be inoperable. We would not be able to play the organ, and Jane would not be able to make the pipes sound without it being totally fixed and repaired. So what do we do from here? What has been the process of the music and the worship committee in all of this time up until now? How have we been looking to prepare for the future, and how do we fix our instrument, and how do we think about what to do at this juncture? Well, like I told you in April, we're at a place where we're working to gather bids and have been gathering bids from selected organ builders and workers from across the country. But I do want to clear up just some information that you heard me say last time that's important to note. Previously, one of our most recent quote prior to this year's work, this scope of work done in 2024 for a new bid, our last quote was from Jay Mitchell, our organ curator, in the fall of 2021, so 3 years ago, which a quote and a bid of any case does not last that long. It would have no longer been good in 2022, but just for the sake of numbers, in 2021, the estimated cost of the basic overhaul of the instrument, just to re-leather the instrument and to replace the outdated and obsolete electronic relays in the console, all to be completed by Reuter Organ, which Reuter, the company that built the organ, is no longer in business. They went out of business in 2022, so the quote that they gave, which no longer is valid and no longer is reasonable by any stretch of means because they're no longer able to do work, that money was $179,655, or it grossed up for some additional costs and contingencies, $215,000. That is an old number that is now 3 years old, that has grown and would have expounded and expanded upon with time and inflation and all the costs. However, that bid is no longer good and relevant to us, so that's not a true and accurate number that we have by any means to think about. So in these past 6 months and 7 months that the Music and Worship Committee has been gathering bids, We've been working to contact selected organ builders since March of this year, 2024. We've contacted some organ companies and maintainers and builders that are working that specialize just in maintenance and leathering, and others work on the complete and comprehensive care of the instrument. They work to do not just total repairs and overhauls of the instrument, but complete renovations of the instrument. And some of the bids and organ builders we talked to, like Reuter, our own manufacturer, are no longer in business. Some of the companies we talked to were glad that we had reached out, but they declined to offer us a bid. They did not want to take the time to offer us a bid because they didn't have the ability or the time frame or the schedule or the room in their calendar to be able to put us on their calendar because of other projects that they've taken on. Some builders and organ builders that we asked were unable to give us a bid or unable to give us a complete bid for the complete overhaul of the instrument. They were able to do little pieces of it, but again, it's not just a little piece of the organ that we need fixed, it's all of the organ that we need releathered and repaired at the minimum. And then some other companies that we also wanted to be sure to reach out and contact about were companies that knew of Reuter's organ building and would have helped us maintain our instrument and keep it true to the Reuter standard that Reuter would have built it. There are many organ companies out there, not numerous, but there are several. However, some of them have their own niche opportunities to work on organs and have their own niche areas of types of organs and specializations within organ building that are not specific to Reuter, but are specific to a different style of organ building. So just like your foreign import car, maybe if you drive a European car, you're not going to ask the Ford Motor Company to work on your Tesla or to work on your BMW or your Rolls Royce. You're going to go to a specialized dealer or a specialized maintainer who can work on that style of car. Well, in this case, we had to be selective of not just going out to any Joe Schmo who could work on an organ, but to an organ builder that knew about Reuter's work in organ building and could help us take care of our specific instrument. Ultimately, the recommendation from the Music and Worship Committee that we submitted to Budget and Finance in early October, late August, early September of this year was a three-part recommendation because we had finally collated and gone through all of the bids and selected on a bid. So we asked Budget and Finance that informed them that we've selected a bid and that's who we want to proceed forward with. We also wanted to begin a fundraising campaign and the formation of a sub-team to work with the Music and Worship Committee to help fundraise for this project. That way it wasn't going to sit on the shoulders or on the needs of the budget or our reserves, but that way we could go out and get all of the own money, our independent money, in a separate fund, like the organ fund that currently exists, and we could fundraise for this project, all off of our current budget needs, which is important to think about. We were very conscious to think about, we didn't want to put extra strain on the budget, particularly this year with giving trends as we've seen them, but we wanted to be sure that we could find a way to pay for this project independently of the needs of our church and her ministries. So we suggested the formation of a sub-team of a fundraising campaign, and we asked that if we could name a team together chaired by Marianne and Tyler. And Marianne and Tyler were very open and accepting of being able to serve in this capacity, very excited to do so. We also asked Budget and Finance to, at that point in time, which was the end of August, to assess the feasibility of signing an organ repair contract for the proposed work with the builder we had selected by the end of this calendar year. That way we could keep and go with a proposed price that was given to us this year, before it possibly could have been recalculated next year in 2025. We wanted to lock in a lower price. So, without further ado, we want to present you and show you the recommended bid and proposal that the Music and the Worship Committee has selected amongst the 4 bids that we received for various scopes and solicited scopes of work. We have been presented by a company named R.A. Colby out of Johnson City, Tennessee, who is a 3rd-generation organ building company who has just been spectacular throughout this process. They have been thoughtful and considerate. They have the worshiping congregation's heart at the forefront of their company mantra, and they really, really have done a thorough and fair job to come in and to give us a complete bid. They came down to our church and took our whole instrument apart. They removed pipes, they took the console apart. They really did a thorough inspection of our instrument and told us what we needed and maybe what also could be done in the future to our instrument to expand and enhance our worship and enhance our organ, not just fix the immediate need. So Colby presented us with a bid for the work that includes the complete factory overhaul of the instrument with additional renovation work, all completed by a team of skilled organ builders, not just a group of people that were part-time or were volunteer, or even myself and a group of volunteers from our church, but a skilled team of contractors that know what they're doing with organ building. And this bid was all structured in a plan for installment payments for a fully covered white glove style service care and maintenance plan that incorporates the work of Jay Mitchell, our current organ caretaker, and provides for a plan of continuity with the work to be completed initially all up front without the immediate and full financial burden. So what that means is their proposal is to come in and do the entire scope of the repair and a renovation of building upon it, but without the immediate hit to our finances. It's an installment plan, which I'll talk about in just a little bit. If we agreed to this by the end of 2024, in the plan and the bid that we have selected, the project would be scheduled with an anticipated completion by Advent, December of 2025, under a plan called the Legacy Program. In normal structures and in normal circumstances, outside of this quote-unquote legacy program, it would take us 12 to 15 months to get on to a company like R.A. Colby's schedule, just to be able to get on their calendar for them to then, after that 12 to 15 month waiting period, to then begin the work of this. So this legacy program, as I begin to explain it to you, almost cuts that wait time in half and puts us to the front of the line for them to begin working on our instrument ahead of other projects that they have, which is the benefit of part of this proposal. The proposed bid includes the following things. It repairs the immediate need that we have, the re-leathering and the electrical repairs that were made known to us years ago by Jay Mitchell. It also includes a tonal renovation of the organ in addition to the immediate needs of the work. And by a tonal renovation and a enhancement of the organ, it includes a new movable console. So the big box where Jane and Marianne have sat for years and Betty Gurley sat, rather than being stationary at that point on our stage, it will be now movable, and a new console will be built that has all sorts of capabilities and possibilities for digital integration with memory levels for how sounds can be programmed and stops can be added, and playing capabilities really are endless at that point. We also have chances to record the organ and to have playback capabilities. New stops and digital speaking sounds are also part of the renovation. So some of the pipe work that exists in there, because of how tight that space is, will be swapped out for some digital sounds, which only helps us care for the instrument longer because we don't have these real mechanical leather chests and pipes But some of the pipes, not all of the pipes, will be changed out for digital speaking sounds, which has a longer lifespan and longevity of work. We're going to update and rebuild the wind chests and fix all of the leathering work that needs to be done. They're going to reorient and relay out the inside of the organ chambers. That way, they have more room to get their people and their workers and their team of people up into the chambers to tune our instrument, which cuts down on the cost of the how much tunings cost and only increases the ability to service and to repair the instrument moving forward. Without that, we're really looking at a potential and major hurt for us when a new company after Jay Mitchell no longer is able to service the instrument. When a new company has to come in and work on the instrument, they're going to have to take extra time and extra money, and it's going to be an extra cost to our church to have a crew of people come in and work in these tight, confined spaces that we are limited to here at our church. Also, part of this proposal is a 20-year service contract for the instrument in which we no longer pay and are on the hook for tunings and maintenance and repairs. All of that is included in this annual premium bid that I'll explain more about. And lastly, R.A. Colby will also act and serve as a consulting firm to help us search for and hire a new organist when the need arises. When the time comes for Jane to step down as organist when she's ready to retire, we wanted to be sure that we had a continuity plan and a contingency plan for finding a new organist one day. And R.A. Colby, as part of this bid and part of the services that they include as this legacy program, is included as an executive search firm to help us when the time comes. So the bid itself, by the numbers, what they're proposing to do, the immediate need and the tonal renovation, so the expansion and enhancement of the organ itself, is all included under this quote-unquote legacy program. It's an all-inclusive plan and service contract that covers the cost of any initial and additional repairs, like a contingency, like what-ifs and unknown repairs that we will most certainly and are guaranteed to find out once we take the instrument out, which it has to come out anyway, and year-end repairs and guaranteed fixes that we're going to have to tackle in the next 20 years. Those are all part of a contingency plan as part of a cost fitted in with this. We have a warranty coverage that's part of the legacy program, as well as 40 tunings over the span of 20 years, and which is equal to 2 tunings per year, which is how often we tune the organ, and a complete maintenance plan over the term of 20 years. So the legacy program is a long-term commitment on our church to care for the organ in not just the immediate need, but to have someone and to hand off responsibility and care and worry for it to a company that will last and will be there to oversee it and to maintain it for the next 20 years. The cost of this program is a payment schedule that shakes out to $4,343 a month. Or, if you think of that in the term of a year, that's $52,116 a year for the course of 20 years, which in total equals $1,042,320. Now again, let me say that right. For the cost of this legacy program, the cost of this fixing the immediate need and the tonal renovation and enhancement of our instrument is $52,000 a year, which over the course of 20 years of a contract is $1,042,320 years. So again, just to draw on what I've already said, we're going to receive the immediate repair of the instrument, the immediate fix of what has to happen in any scenario, which is the fixing of the leather and the overhaul of the instrument, plus an expanded capability, an enhanced organ and instrument that's going to help us breathe and sing and worship in new and exciting and still faithful and traditional, honoring and historic ways that we have had a great legacy in, but we're not going to see the immediate cost of that. We don't pay $1 million up front. We pay $52,000 a year for the next 20 years. This annual premium is calculated each year for inflation based on the annual CPIU figure for the length of the term. So, unlike a set interest rate, in the case of a loan, this is a service contract. This is not a loan. Each year, the premium does increase, though, based on that year's inflation percentage increase. So the first year, as you're trying to process this, is $52,000 a year. However, that cost goes up each year based upon inflation. The increase of it is tied to inflation. So as the inflation rates go up, so does our premium. However, it is different from the cost of a loan. It is different from the interest rate that we would pay over time for a loan. This is not a loan. There is no accruing interest over time. It is only today's money and today's value in tomorrow's dollars. The payments of the legacy program begin immediately upon signing, and a flexible payment structure of either monthly, quarterly, biannually, or annually will be agreed upon by us at the time of the signing of the contract. And that can be changed, and it's flexible at any point in the contract's term. The coverage of the legacy program begins immediately on the existing instrument as is. So it covers everything that currently is on the instrument until the instrument can be taken out and repaired and reinstalled, and continues then after the instrument is renovated and repaired through the length of the term of the contract. So what this looks like in real time and in a timeline is Colby is going to front the money and the cost for the repair of the instrument immediately if we were to sign into a contract by the end of 2024, which is coming up very soon. They're going to fix the entire instrument, and they're going to also enhance the instrument and renovate it in a way that is serviceable, in a way that is enhanced and improved, in a way that is expanded usage for us in our worship context and in our worship setting, in a way that would really be beneficial to the music and worship ministry of our church. That also benefits all of our community and music events that we host from the outside, bringing into our church, and weddings and funerals. They're going to front all of the money, and they're going to front all of the labor, and they're going to bump us up to the head of the line, skipping a 12 to 15 month wait period. They're going to begin work of it off-site up at their factory up in Tennessee. And then, as we get closer to Advent of next year, after the summer and the early fall, they will come into our facility and they will remove the instrument. We will be without the organ for a series of 3 to possibly 6 months while they work in that window to fix and repair the instrument and then have it back installed in hopes to have it ready for Advent of 2025, which is a very quick lead time. No other company is willing and able to offer that amount of turnaround time on a repair, nor are they able to do all of that type of labor, all of that scale and scope of work for this type of financed plan, for this type of payment option available to us. So we're going to see all of the benefit of this grand work and this enhanced care over the length of 20 years, which is ultimately what drew the Music and Worship Committee to this bid, because we want someone to care for it in the same long-term longevity that we have enjoyed these past 40 years with Jay Mitchell, without the immediate full financial burden on our organ fund or on the budget. So this gives us time to raise the money while also signing up initially and immediately to get the work done and to get the project going. So a breakdown of the bid, a cost of the renovation and the repair in its total, just to break down this $1 million number, is $866,539. The cost of two tunings per year is $57,440. That is the cost of two tunings per year over the course of 20 years. So that's how much it costs for 20 years worth of biannual tunings. And then lastly, a contingency and what if factor. So all of the anticipated and guaranteed repairs to help last us the next 20 years are covered under this number, and that amount is $118,341, all totaling together for the cost of $1,042,330. All of that grouped together over the course of 20 years. This is today's value in what will be tomorrow's dollar, because remember, this $1 million is tied to inflation with the annual premium. So at the end of the day, we're still paying the value of $1 million in today's money, but by the end of 20 years, it will be in tomorrow's dollar. Some more numbers for us to consider and to think about. Ultimately, a bid is only good for a length of time, whether it's any type of bid that you work on and get. So the bid expires on December 31st of this calendar year per a mandated and required recalculation of the Oregon Builders Association. Meaning, in order to lock in this price, this $1 million, $42,320 price, we need to sign the contract for the legacy program with R.A. Colby by early December. That way they have time to place the order for all of the parts and all the materials that they're going to need to begin work off-site up in Tennessee in January. If we do not sign the contract by the end of this year, then that $1 million, $42,000 price goes up. Also, the timeline for the completion of the work is delayed. If we delay entering into a contract with R.A. Colby until after January 1st, if we wait until January 1st for whatever reason, then we can expect an estimated increase of at least 5% of the annual premium per year. So that's at least 5%. That's just a gross estimation of what we're looking at. This is not by any means the final word, but this is just an anticipated, estimated increase at the very least of 5% on the annual premium. So $52,000 for the first year. Next year would look like at the very least $54,721.80 for the first year's premium. And then, in total for the whole project, we're looking at an increase of at least $50,000 from $1,042,000 to $1,094,000. So there is some incentive for us to consider if we're able to sign this before the end of the year. However, if we decide to delay in order to help us prepare and to fundraise and to consider how to do this project and how to pull it off, we ultimately risk not just the price going up, but we're putting the Oregon at risk. We're putting the Oregon at risk of something continuing to deteriorate and to malfunction and to get worse in its present state. Also, we delay the time at which the work would be completed. Remember, right now, if we decide to sign before December 31st, the schedule for completion is by Advent of 2025. If we delay until after January 1st of 2025, then the new expected completion date for all of the work is the summer of 2026. So there is a benefit for us to consider having this done before the end of the year. Our recommendation that we took to Budget and Finance, as I've told you before and went over this with you, was to select this bid that we've now just discussed with you. It was also to form a fundraising and fundraising team, a sub team chaired by Marianne and Tyler, and to ask Budget and Finance to assess the feasibility of the repair contract of signing this before the end of 2024. Not trying to speak for Budget and Finance, but to give a summary of where they currently are at, with good reason and with great caution, with great reserve, and with great measure. They have done a very important and a very hard thing of not yet approving music and worship for bringing this proposal to the church and conference in an actionable and a votable way. Budget and Finance is not ready to approve moving this forward for the church to vote on this item yet, for a couple of different factors. First, because of our financial position and the giving trend that we are currently in. We're behind on the budget and we're at a deficit, so they want to make sure that we're able to first care for the church and her ministries before we take on this extra long-term commitment. We also are not yet at a place where we have cold hard cash at the level that would be a generous threshold in the organ fund. And they would like to see that picked up, or at least some pledged giving and some guarantee of some major special gifts before we sign a contract with them, with R.A. Colby, for this work. Budget and Finance, I applaud them in their work, and they are doing the correct and the stewardship thing to make sure that we are caring for the work of our church and all that it has to do. And they are doing so in a correct and a meaningful and a diligent and in a dedicated and cautious way. They are doing hard work and good work. And while that impacts sometimes what we want, they have the best heart and mind for our church in the end. So all this to say, we want to just make you aware of where we're at with the budget finance conversation and the music and worship conversation for the bid of the organ. We're not yet ready to proceed with asking you to decide on this yet. We just wanted to bring you the information and to prepare you for the upcoming fundraising opportunity starting in 2025. As I've told you, and as you've seen in the presentation here, our Music and Worship Committee has assembled a fundraising sub-team to oversee a capital campaign for the organ starting in 2025. And Budget and Finance has approved this fundraiser for the funds of the organ, and Marianne and Tyler are serving as our co-chairs of this fundraising team, and they'll be served alongside by John Condra and Nancy Tolbert Yilmaz and myself to oversee a capital campaign that will begin in 2025. You're going to hear about this more next year in January, but know that in 2025 a capital campaign is coming, and as well as opportunities for a variety of ways to give. You can consider a one-time gift or recurring gifts for the organ, where we're going to have fundraising events and opportunities that will help us have some ticketed and fundraising events and concerts. We're going to be soliciting memorial donations and ways for you to memorialize a loved one or important people and loved ones in our church. We're also considering outside grants as a part of this sub-team, and we're working currently on major solicited and selected gifts to help us get a kickstart and a jump start on fundraising. That way we have got some more concrete proof that there's energy and excitement and feasibility for us to move into signing a long-term commitment contract with R.A. Colby as our organ builder and as our proposed bid for the project. The fundraising for the project also, in the meantime, has had some very good headway made, and just want to make you aware of some of the numbers that we've already taken in as part of the Oregon Fund. Currently in the fund, since we really started to collect some earlier this year in the summer, I'm proud to say that we've had $24,143 given to the Oregon Fund to date. And that is without any major asks or any major push for fundraising drives. That is just what has come in through a variety of different memorials and gifts and dedicated giving opportunities. The Tylers and I have had some very high level and early conversations with some individual gifts that have been pledged to date, and that number totals in $37,973. We've also been the recipient of a grant from the foundation here at First Baptist Roswell. They met last month to talk about the ways that they could contribute to the Oregon Fund, and I'm proud to say that they have decided to gift and give $52,116,000 to the Oregon Fund as a gift given in 2 different payments over the course of this year and next year. All total contributed and pledged to date is $114,232,000, which equals to the total of over 2 years of the annual premiums that are needed for us. So if you think about it, we have 2 years in the bank, only 18 to go. Additionally, we also have some major gifts that are pledged of at least $12,500 per year for the years moving forward in this project. So we're really in some really great headway, and we're at a really great point to be able to be poised to move forward in the fundraising project for a capital campaign, which we really see a lot of excitement and energy moving forward into this. So all of this going forward to tell you, how do we proceed from here? Well, what is next? Well, next year in 2025, you're going to hear more about a capital campaign to raise more money for the Oregon, to be able to help us have a threshold met and a guarantee met. That way, music and worship and budget and finance can bring a joint recommendation and motion back to church and conference when the time is right, when all the approvals have been made. That way we can take a vote to the church on whether or not to enter into a 20-year contract with R.A. Colby for the complete Oregon renovation known as the Legacy Program. This is really an exciting time for our Oregon and an exciting time for our church. It's an exciting motion for us to jump around and to rally around in a way that is tangible, that is visible, and that is audible. That way we will be able to enjoy the fruits of this labor very soon and very quickly without the overall burden on us. This is really a great gift and a great process that we've been given to our church, and I really want to thank our fundraising team, Marianne and Tyler, John Condra, and Nancy Tolbert Yilmaz, along with all of the members of our Music and Worship Committee for their hard work and their steadfast labors on going through all of this and helping to work alongside a variety of different groups and people to bring us to this point. As you have questions, which I'm sure you will, and have more information that you would like to request about and to hear more about the Oregon itself, I will be happy to answer any questions that you can. You can call me at the office, or you can email me, david@fbroswell.org, or you can catch me at the church conference for more information. But again, the purpose of this presentation is just to give you some insight and information into the project and to an update, to make you aware of the bid that has been made known to us and that we have selected as the Music and Worship Committee, that we are working towards the goal of our Oregon restoration, and also what is to come next year in 2025. Thank you for sticking around for this long presentation. Thanks for listening to it, and if you have any questions, please feel free to bring them. Thank you so much.